So on to support. Um, there's one kind of support that I'm going to talk about separately, which is quotes. Okay. These are a special kind of support because people tend to make different kinds of mistakes when they use quotes as support than other kinds of support. Okay. So, excuse me. So, when you use a quote, one way you might want to use a quote is to define an important word, an important uh, concept from your reading. If you're going to use that in your body paragraph, so after the topic sentence, you'll get to some support, and if the body paragraph is about one idea from a book, you probably want to tell the reader what that word or what that concept means. That's one way to use quotes. Okay. Um, it's a very important way to use quotes. If you're using one book as a source of theories or ideas, and then you're talking about your life or you're talking about another book, it's very important that your reader understand those ideas from the first book. You can also use quotes as support for specific points, and obviously, this depends on what kind of points you're trying to make. But a quote, you can think of a quote sort of like a piece of evidence from a trial. So if you were a lawyer and you were trying to argue that somebody committed a crime or somebody did not commit a crime, and you have a piece of evidence like a knife with blood on it or something, a quote is sort of like that knife. Okay, it's a very strong piece of evidence because people can see it right in front of them. Okay, it's not the only evidence that you need. Okay, so as a lawyer, when you bring out that evidence, you still have to explain it. You have to show that it supports your argument that this person killed someone or this person didn't kill someone. Okay, so they're a very strong piece of evidence, but they're not the only thing that you need um, to make your point. So here's an example of a quote as a definition. Here's a quote from Harry Potter. It says, "A Horcrux is a word for an object in which a person has concealed part of their soul. Dot, dot, dot means I took something out here." And you can read the rest of the quote by yourself. Okay? So notice that I'm using this quote to define for the reader what a Horcrux is. Okay? In case they don't know. And of course, we're supposed to pretend that the reader does not know our book and does not know our topic. Okay? Or for other kinds of support, here's an example of a quote you can use. "Killing rips the soul apart. The wizard intent upon creating a Horcrux would use the damage to his advantage." So again, I'm still talking about Horcruxes, but this time I'm not using my quote to tell the reader what a Horcrux is. I'm supporting some point that I'm trying to make in the paragraph. So, like I said about using quotes as a piece of evidence, like a knife in a murder trial, the knife does not speak for itself. The lawyer still has to explain what the knife means. So I might say, when the killer attacked, sorry, this is so violent, when the killer attacked his victim, he used a knife, and the evidence shows that it was a knife like this one. As you can see, there is blood on the blade, and the blood matches the victim's blood. There are also fingerprints. The fingerprints match the killer's fingerprints, and this shows that the real killer is this person, and he killed the victim that night. So I explained the whole piece of evidence. I didn't just show them the knife and then put it down and not say anything. Okay, so you don't want to let the quote talk for itself. You want to explain the quote. You want to explain how it proves what you're trying to prove. So, what we call this approach is the quote sandwich. There's another presentation that's just about quote sandwich, but I'll just give you the basic points. You introduce the quote, then you have a quote, and then you explain the quote. And it looks like a sandwich, like this. Okay, looks kind of like a hamburger. So I won't explain everything here, but you can look at my example and see how it works. The point is to make the quote make sense to the reader and show the reader how it proves your point. Okay, So on to another type of support that is not quotes. You can think of types of support as these four different categories, and it depends on what kind of essay you're trying to write. You might need some more than others, you might not need some at all. But if you're wondering what kind of support you should give, you can maybe think about these four categories and wonder maybe you should give more facts or maybe you should give more examples. So FRED, F-R-E-D, stands for facts, reasons, examples, and details. In my experience, usually examples are the ones that I want my students to give more of as a writing teacher. Okay, so if you really need more support, think of more specific examples that you can give from your book or from whatever it is that you're writing about, from your life or something like that. Okay. Facts are things that are true. Reasons are connections between two things that happen. One causes another one. Examples are specific things from the text or things from your life or things from whatever you're talking about that support your point. And here I mean specific, not sometimes people do this, but one time I did this. Okay. Often examples will be in the past tense because they happened one specific time. Okay. Details are adding color or vividness or interest to your writing in a way that will catch the reader's attention better. A fact is more likely to be seen in most kinds of academic writing. Details are more likely to be seen in a narrative type of academic writing. Okay. So here's a complete example of a body paragraph that's not very good. Okay. So I'll let you read it. I'll just point out a few things that you might have noticed are not very good about this paragraph. Okay, first of all, the topic sentence. Harry wants to destroy the Horcruxes. I mean, that's true. But is that the main point of this paragraph? I don't think so. Also, there's a detail in the middle. Harry's friends are worried about him, and he visits Dumbledore while he is dead. That doesn't seem related to the topic of the paragraph. Of course, again, this is true, but not everything that's true supports your point. I'm talking about Harry Potter, by the way. And then this quote, the wizard intent on creating a Horcrux would use the damage to his advantage. Okay. So first of all, the reader hasn't seen a definition of a Horcrux, and maybe I introduced it in another paragraph, so I don't have to here, but if I didn't, then this paragraph will not make any sense to the reader because they don't know what a Horcrux is, and I never told them what it is. Also, this quote doesn't seem to support my point, and I didn't introduce the quote and I didn't explain the quote. The reader might not see how this is connected to my point, and reading it right now as from a reader's eyes, I don't see any connection between this quote and my main point. It looks like this person put their main point in the last sentence. This shows that Harry is willing to make great sacrifices to defeat Voldemort. But if that's the main point of my paragraph, then that should be first, right? And I should probably choose a different quote to support this or find some way to explain this quote so the reader can see a connection between the quote about creating a Horcrux and the point of making sacrifices. Right, so that looks like my topic sentence down there, but that should really be first. So here's a better example, and I moved the topic sentence to the top. So I'll let you read this on your own, but I hope you can see the quote. I used a quote to define what a Horcrux is for the reader. Every point is related to my main point. Every point of support is related to my main point about Harry making sacrifices. And I said I would talk about this just a little bit, but the last sentence there, in this way he shows the extent that he will go to destroy his hated enemy. That's what we call a concluding sentence. It's very similar to the topic sentence because The point of a concluding sentence is to remind the reader of the main point. Like a lot of things in academic writing, the point of doing this is so that the reader can see your point easily. So it's doing a favor for the reader so that they can understand you. Okay, so that's what a concluding sentence is. This paragraph is not perfect, but it's much, much better than the last one. Okay, so to recap the important points, in your topic sentence, the first sentence, give the main point of the paragraph. Don't give the first point of the paragraph. Don't give an announcement that there will be a point. Just say the main point. In your support, think about using facts, reasons, examples, and details for your support, and consider using quotes. A lot of teachers require that you use quotes. And remember that a good way to use a quote in your paragraph is to define a word that the reader might not know. Okay. Always explain your quotes so that the reader can see the connection between those quotes and your point. Don't expect the reader to see that by themselves. And then in your concluding sentence, if you have one, remind the reader of the main point. Again, this is just doing the reader a favor so that they can understand your point more clearly. Okay, I hope this helps.